has formally requested financial support from the International Monetary Fund, and that's to ease the government's liquidity pressures. Africa's second largest oil producer has been hit by low crude prices. Foreign companies operating in Angola are suffering losses due to a shortage of dollars. Now, the firms are also unable to repatriate their profits. Angola's finance ministry has not revealed how much financial support it has asked the IMF for. Oil production has also been on the decline in the country. Now, output is expected to fall to 1.5 million barrels a day in 2018, down from about 1.6 million last year and 1.9 million a decade ago. The IMF expects the country's economy to grow just 2.2% this year, well below original government forecast of 4.9%. Well, let's get some more insight on this. Joining us from in Johannesburg is economist Chris Hart. You're very welcome to the show, sir. Now, the IMF had said sometime early this year that it does not think a bailout is necessary for Angola right now, of course, in light of this administration's reform plans, as well as a buoyant global debt market. So do you think Angola's situation now warrants financial support?
Well, I think Angola's really struggled in 2016 and 2017. The country went into deep recession. Inflation went over 30%. You had the official interest rates going up to 18%. They have cut that recently, and we have seen inflation ease more recently. But effectively, after 2 years in recession, which is really a long time for an economy to endure recession, we're seeing a fairly feeble result and recovery cycle right now, even though the oil price has been rising a little bit in the last year or so. We're still seeing the Angolan economy struggle. This economy depends on oil quite heavily, and I think what's happening, the government is actually looking to see, can we actually get a stronger boost to this actual recovery cycle that we're seeing. I think for a long time, for an economy to be in such a hole for such a long time starts to create incredible social and political pressures, and that's what I think they're feeling at the moment.
Quite right. And as we see, as you mentioned as well, Angola is struggling to fund its budget. Oil production also fallen to the lowest since 2007. We're seeing growth slowing in the country. So do you see the country needing more than the 1.4 billion US dollars we saw it getting from the IMF in 2009 to 2012 in a different loan program?
Yeah, they probably do need more. The economy is effectively a $100 billion economy. That is down from 130 billion just a few years ago, and it's partly because of the contraction and of course the exchange rate that has gone against, that has weakened quite a bit. But a bailout in the order of 1 to 2 billion probably is not enough to get the economy really pumping. That's really just a patch. It probably does need more, but it needs to be put in a context where it actually does go into the actual root of the economy. One of the big problems of Angola is that they are notorious in terms of corruption, and very often it's a case of these bailouts or external money coming into the country can often disappear, or large amounts be unaccounted for, and this is one area that Angola cannot afford at this stage. We need that if they're going to actually go for this this assistance. They actually do need it to actually generally get into the economy and help to diversify the economy away from oil, to strengthen some of the sectors that can actually be counter-cyclical in terms of the economy. It's far too dependent on oil, and we can see that in terms of the actual oil. The economy literally booms and busts according to what the oil price is doing.
Now, we have seen this new administration working hard to tackle corruption in the country, amongst state firms as well. They're also looking to improve the business environment in the country. So do investors have confidence in the job President Lourenço has done, suddenly since he took office in September?
Well, I think it's so important to curb corruption, and if people can see that there's progress being made against corruption, it gives hope and it starts to build trust. The one thing that high corruption levels do actually build, especially unaccountable corruption, is that it breaks trust in an economy. And when you've got an economy that's battling with things like being able to repatriate profits because of the lack of foreign exchange, that corruption cycle just exacerbates the problem, because effectively when people do have currency, they keep it out of the system as far as possible, and it doesn't flow within the actual economy, because they're afraid that the actual ability to keep their resources will be taken away from them, to actually fund other things. And that's why it's important to actually build trust. It builds confidence, it attracts investment. That trust factor is something that the Angolan economy needs quite urgently.
Well, what are your thoughts on the central bank's devaluation of the kwanza? Has it been effective?
Well, I think part of the problem is if you don't have a proper valuation of the exchange rate, in other words, when it's overvalued and set at a level that doesn't clear the market, one ends up with a problem that people don't want to actually transact at that particular level. You then have a forced financial repression type of thing, where people who need dollars are given it at a favorable rate that's subsidized by people who are actually earning those dollars. And so an overvalued exchange rate is not at all helpful. But we also need to actually see that the exchange rate is actually set at a rate that actually doesn't fuel what I call as a vicious cycle, where one devaluation leads to more devaluations. One has to combine a stable exchange rate with good monetary and fiscal policies, so that you're not actually chasing your tail as far as that is concerned.
Well, we have to leave it there, but many thanks for your insights. Of course, Chris Hart joining us in Johannesburg. He is an economist.